re-achieved and retrieved, and nothing is lost altogether. So all you have to do is just start all over again. And if you really want, you can make it an Indian of Pesach Sheni. It's a very rare thing in the Torah. We don't find in anything that they ever said, oh yes, you have another chance. Everything is got its time, and its place, where it has to be done. That's the mitzvahs, the ha'olam. We have a big cloud when I get to the korbanos that over zman bottle for korbanos. Once the time is gone past, and the whole korban is potter. And yet he would say that the Abishah gave even a second chance. Those who missed out on the Pesach Rishon under a certain circumstance, that's not completely a free deal. Depends on certain inyanim and halacha, the kulu. Although if a person has a good case of Torah, then he can offer, he has a second chance to offer the korban Pesach. And that came from the fact that Yidden said with a definiteness of a power, a strong conviction of soul, that they said, Lama Nikora, why should we be different? Why should we miss out? Levilti Hakreif Korban Hashem b'moyodai. We shouldn't be able to offer the Korban Hashem in its right time. Why should we be different? In other words, just because we were from amazed at that time, why should we miss out? But when a person says, why should I miss out? He shows Hashem that he also wants to be part of it, and he also wants to do the demands of Ratzon Hashem, and he wants to keep the Korban Pesach. But for you, then Hashem said to Moshe, here I'm giving him a second chance. On the 14th of Iyar, which is like in the middle of nowhere compared to the 14th of Nisan, the Abishah gave a second chance to offer the Korban Pesach. It is a very rare, and it's incomparable in Torah mitzvah. That's why the Frierdiker Rebbe says that this comes to show us that nothing is ever completely lost. You can always make an effort and regain the situation, and even bring itself to the point where it can all be made again, especially for you. Hashem is ready, as it were, to recreate the whole offer of his Ratzon in that particular part, that you should be able to fulfill his Ratzon, even though it's already passed a long time before. All right, good. So, exactly what that's got to do with what we're learning here, we'll soon see. If we make a start, then maybe we can find some into that. So up to now, we've been dealing with the fact that there are three levushim to every nefesh elokis, three garments of the nefesh elokis. And we're holding on page Ches, about 5 lines up from the bottom, the beginning of the sentence, Vehine. And we said that there were the 10 powers of the soul, and then there were the 3 garments of the soul, and we don't need to repeat all that because we've gone into that in some detail before. And what are these shloisha levushim? They are the machshava, dibur, umaisa, thought, speech, and action of the Taryag mitzvahs HaTorah, which means that the Torah itself, those are the levushim. The Torah is how it expresses itself on different levels and in different ways of coming into kiyum of the mitzvahs and the demands of the Torah. They come into these 3 levels of machshava, dibur, umaisa. Particularly the letters, the oisiyas of the Torah, they become the levushim of the nefesh. In other words, that the mitzvahs of the inyanim, how they are in Torah, they become the levushim of the nefesh ha'odam. So, the name levush would imply an outward garment, as we've stated on many occasions. The levush has got an advantage in that through our levushim we're able to appear in public, or we're able to face the demands of the weather, or have more levushim or less according to the the types of weather, etc., etc. However, the levush is a separate thing from the mensch, and it seems to be a lesser, what you might call, gravity or honor than what the mensch is himself. The levushim would hardly be described as having at first glance anyway, they would hardly be described as having the same status or gradation or honor as the Adam himself, even though the levushim fit on his body, but his body wouldn't always be the most highest part of the Adam. Nonetheless, it is the etzem of the Adam. It is the very essence of the man, his body. The levush just seems to be a outward and not essentially valuable thing in its final status judgment as compared to the very essential being of the man. So here the elders are going to say, well, in this particular case, that's not the case. That in this case, the levushim are higher than the thing which goes into the levushim. Normally, we're right, and we say that the body or the essential essence that puts on the garment is higher than the garment, and the garment is only a sort of a servant and a medium to help the very essence of the person, or the body, or whatever it is which is the essential person. Here it's the other way around. Here the author is going to say that even though these machshava dibur u'maisa of the Tariag mitzvahs HaTorah are only called levushim, over here they're much, much greater and more important than the things which they dress up, which are the 10 powers of the soul. And that's going to be the main, as it were, bomber of this particular class, that the levushim are greater than the malubash bahem. Vehine shleisha levushim elu. These three particular garments of the soul, mi ha'toira, where do those levushim come from, and what are they made of? What are in effect those garments of your soul? Well, they are from the Torah u'mitzvah seha. They are the oisias, as we find, the ways of expressing, the way that the Torah comes into your life in a practical way. So he said, even af shenikroim levushim, even they are called only levushim. Af, even though that they're called levushim lenefesh, ruach, uneshama, and nefesh, ruach, and neshama are three levels in the essential soul. The essential soul, each of them having their own 10 koiches. Nefesh, ruach, and neshama, as the Alter would point out in Perek Beis, each one of them has its own 10 powers of moichin and midah. So he said, even though these three levushim are called levushim, to what? To the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which would imply that the nefesh, ruach, and neshama are higher than the levushim. He said, im kolzeh, nonetheless, im kolzeh, meaning even with all that, nonetheless, govho v'godlo ma'alosom le'ein kates v'seif al ma'alos nefesh, ruach, uneshama atzmon. Nonetheless, he said, they are much higher, govho, and they are much greater in their mila, in their supremacy, in their advantage. Govho, higher, greater, gadlo, greater, ma'alosom, their particular advantage or their state. Yeah, la'ein kates v'seif. Yeah, to no end and to end. To no end and end. It's very interesting that the Alter Rebbe uses both words here for the word end. So with that he would apparently be trying to double the stress that this is a incomparable greatness. It's a greatness that knows of no end and of no finality or no in any way basis of comparison even. It's an absolutely an incomparable level of greatness and highness and advantage that these three levushim of the Torah, machshava dibur u'maisa of the Torah, have over the actual essence of the soul, the 10 powers of the soul, which divide into 3 levels of nefesh, ruach, neshama. They said, nefesh, ruach, neshama, atzmon. How can I bring an example? How can I bring an illustration of that? As it's written in the Zohar, Doiraisa v'kutshabrichu kulechad, because it's written in the Zohar that the Torah and the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Eibishter kulechad are all one in it. They're united so much that you can't even call them two entities which are joined together, but they are kul echad. They are all one and the same. They, albeit they look to be different, but they unite together in such a way that they are absolutely one and the same inyan, which means that the Eibusha with the Torah are absolutely one, inseparable. Even though there are two entities, nonetheless they are all one. So, what are we being told here? That these levushim of the nefesh, ruach, neshama are govho v'godlo. Now the word govho means high. Govho means, how would you call, elevation and height. Godlo means greatness. So we have to say that that's what also two, as it were, the Alter Rebbe is hinting with those two lashonos. He's hinting to me just how great are the levushim which come from the Torah on our souls, that they are both high and they are both great, in their advantage, in a way which is also, he uses two words, kates v'seif, in a way which is beyond any end or any finality or any end or any end. So, if we think carefully about it for a moment, the word kates means, often refers to a slightly more ruchnius or elevated aspect of an end or a finality. For example, usually when we're talking about time, we talk about kates. For instance, you have in the Torah there in Bereshis, when Yosef had to stay in the prison another 2 years, so the parsha begins, Vayhi mikach shnosayim yomim, from the end of an extra 2 years. We see Moshe Rabbeinu uses the expression in Sefer Dvarim, Vayhi mikach arboim yoim, when he was on the mountain. He said, at the end of the 40 days, I got the 2 luchos abriz. That's what he brings there, that he was makabel the 2 luchos. So we see mikach arboim yoim. And also we see that the word kates can mean like the end of the Golos and the beginning of the Gula. We talk about the kates as a way of referring to like the end of the Golos and the start of the Gula, which really means that's the end of everything in the sense of this world. Kates. So we see the word kates has a temporal aspect to it. Either the word safe refers more to a simple end of any given entity. We talk about the safe of a large entity. You say the safe is like the bottom or the end of it. They talk about the end of a story, or the end of a book, or the end of a piece of rope, or some way. They talk about the safe. The word safe is more there in like a tangible way, more like in the end of a place, or a given quantity, or a physical state of a place somewhere, being like the bottom of a huge building or something of that nature. Our a bottom aspect refers to a top aspect that you could maybe observe, both the top and the bottom. So therefore we can suggest that the Alter Rebbe is hinting to us here that even though how do you call them, the levushim, they come from the Torah, and oisias, they are letters and words that come from the Torah, and the Torah tells us all sorts of halachas and dinim in the physical world. Says the Alter Rebbe, really those things are completely and utterly higher. They're higher in spirituality. Gova, meaning the idea of spirituality, in the sense that they have absolutely no limit. That the Torah is the highest possible spirituality that we could imagine. There's no higher spirituality than the Torah, as we're about to point out in a second. And then he said that the inyan from Godlo is more in the inyan of a space or a measurable or observable entity. And we say that the Torah, all of the things in the Torah, even though they appear to be specific, they have tremendous unreaching effect, or beyond the normal reaching effect, in what you might call the physical or the made or the observable worlds, even though there's certain other worlds which we can't really observe. But in other words, the ability of the Torah to affect all of the aspects of creation and the created world, and everything that we do in the Torah is unmeasurable significance, even in that which can ultimately be observed. Mashiach Grovho is talking about the immeasurable aspect of the Torah, how it is in Ruchnius and completely beyond our understanding. And so the same with Kates and Tzei. We could say that that has no limit, the greatness of these levushim in a spiritual and, in other words, the higher you go, you can imagine comparably higher than that. In other words, Kates is like an untangible idea of no end. For example, one of the reasons why in Yiddish we refer to a Kodesh Baruch Hu as der Eibishter. The word Eibishter in Yiddish means the stander over, he who stands beyond. Steyer means the stander. Oibersteyer means he who stands beyond where we are. And so the Rebbe once observed on that. The Rebbe said that means that wherever you are, the Eibush is higher. In other words, no matter what possible level we can imagine in spirituality and in the upper world, or wherever we'll be, the Eibush is incomparably higher. He's over and above that. So that's the concept of Kates, Ein Kates. There's absolutely no way in elevation and in spiritual particular elevation. Mashing the word, as we said, the word sof is a more tangible idea. Also means there's no end to it, but in a more tangible way within what you might call certain measurements of our observation, even those things which are beyond our knowledge, but or our ability to measure them, but they're within our observation. And therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, these levushim have all of those milas. They have all of those incomparable elevations over the things which they enclose. What are the things that they enclose? Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, Atzmon, the very essence of the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama in their own right. It says, the Zohar Kodesh, why? Ki Kudsha Bricha Bakula, Ve'iraisa V'Kudsha Bricha, Torah and Hashem are all one. So if the intelligent reader only thinks for a moment, then he's only learned two prokim. We don't learn as quick, but he's already learned two prokim back in Perek Beis, that we said over there that the neshama and the neshama, we said nefesh ruach neshama was a divine entity. We said it was a chelik elekam mile. The neshama is a very, very high. It's a divine part, a divine portion. And we said that applies even to the lower levels of the neshama, ruach and nefesh. Not only the higher level, which is neshama, all of them are a chelik elekam mimal. They're a divine portion, and they are essential divinity. As if that's the case, then why is it that the Torah is levushim, of machshava dibur ma'asav, the mitzvahs? Why are they so incomparably, to the point of ein kates and safe? Why are they so incomparably higher than the neshama? The neshama is a divine portion, and so the Torah is divine, it's linked with Hashem, although the neshama is also a divine. And why do we say that these levushim are different than ordinary levushim, but they are incomparably greater than the thing that they dress up? So, I don't know if that question bothers anybody, but that is a question which occurs. If we study what we've learned up to now, that question should occur to our mind. And therefore, we have to look carefully at what was written in Perek Beis. What was written in Perek Beis? The El Torah said that the neshama is a chelik elika mimail mamish. That the neshama is a divine portion from above, but mamish as well. And so the famous beer, the Rebbe Rashab said the neshama comes down to the world of mamish. The neshama comes down into the physical world, where mimail from the divine in the real sense, but ultimately she comes down into the world mamish in a way that she is a chelek elika mimar, a divine portion. So what is a portion? A portion is something that separates off from the main body. In other words, to use the old expression which I've used before, a chip off the old block. In other words, that something which is called a portion is already a separate entity which is out there. Therefore, the neshama is often referred to as a nitot, a spark. Now, a spark is the same idea. A spark is the actual flame. It's the same essence of fire as the flame, but it's gone out on its own. It's running around there in the air, and it would like to go back to the flame. That's another story. Although for the time being, it's out there, and it's a separate entity, and therefore it's called a nitot, which implies the same entity, the same essence, but already separated away. So the neshama then, albeit is very, very high, and she's divine in her very essence, but she's a chelik elika mimaya. In other words, chelik implying the idea of something which is already separated off from its soul. So therefore, having come down into this world, the nefesh, ruach, neshama have divine powers, but they only have divine powers like something separate from Hashem. And therefore, the neshama looks for Hashem and yearns for Him. That we see later on in Tanya, that the neshama is compared to a flame and to a light, which is yearning to go back to its source. And therefore, the neshama would like to find the secret of how to get back and reunite and reabsorb into a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's what the neshama would like to do. Says the elder Rebbe, I got it for you. The Abishah says to every Yid, I got it for you. What is that? Torah. Torah is that which can help you as a divine portion, but you've become separate and you're running around down there in the darkness. I've got for you a thing which will garment you. You put it on like a garment, and it fits beautifully, and through that you will make your way directly to me. Then you'll be reabsorbed and reunited and absolutely bound up with me. Because my Torah and me are mamish one, not a chelik. The Torah is not a chelik elaka. The Torah is kul echad. The Torah is the Eibusher. And that's the difference. And remember, therefore says the Alter Rebbe, Kamoshe Kosa Bezoya De'eraisa V'Kut Shebrichu Kul Echad. The Torah and the Eibusher are all one inyan. He said V'Kodesh Baruch Hu Pirush. So he says for your pshat, what does that mean? Pirush. De'eraisa He Chokmosei V'Retzoinoi Shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu. You shouldn't think that there is some intangible entity that we're all trying to grasp, but who knows how to get over it, where. He says, no, what is Torah? Torah is Chokmosei V'Retzoinoi Shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu. In other words, it's something that you can know what it is, you can come to understand and appreciate and learn and become familiar with what is Doraisa. Why? Because Hashem has made Doraisa in a very special way. He's told you 613 commandments, which are His will. what he really wants. What does he want? And those mitzvahs are like pipelines and tremendous media through which, if you form a connection with them, you find him. And he said, Chokhmah is the study of Torah. Chokhmah is the mitzvah miuchedes of Torah itself. And he says, Chokhmah is also an amazing thing, that despite it having become a specific entity of the mind, through your studying the Chokhmah of Torah, you will make your nefesh, ruach, neshama, which are anyway very divine, they will make this absolute, unshakable unity with me, in the sense that they will be one and absolutely with me. And that is the greatness of the Levushim, that they are Chokhmasei v'Ritzaynei Torah, which means light, or Eraser. That's one on in the Zohar Kodesh Pasha Ba'aloitzcha. You guys are going to Meron, hopefully on Lag B'Omer. So one of the burin that Rabbi Shimon gives in the word Eraser is that it's Oyer Yaiseh. It brings light. Wherever Torah goes, it brings light. Its whole in is to bring light. So it brings you such a light that if you make a connection there, then you're one with HaKadosh Baruch. So you might say, well, Ritzayna, I understand. Ritzayna, that's his will. I say, you may do his will. You link up with him. He says, no, even his wisdom, even his Chokhmah is one with him, just like his will is one with him. There's no difference. They're all the same unity, which means that if you learn, as the Alter Rebbe will say later in Torah, even something in Torah which is not within your ability to carry that out right now, or maybe at any point ultimately in history you want to actually carry that out, you want to have the actual Ritzonei, but you'll have Chokhmasei, your connection with him is exactly the same, because Chokhmasei v'Ritzonei, Ritzonei v'Chokhmasei, it's all the same in Oiraisa. And Oiraisa v'Kutshabrichu Kulachai. Well, you're not going to be a chelik anymore, you're going to be Avamera with the mit is understandable why the Levushim are greater incomparably than the actual Nefesh Ruach Neshama Atzman. Because the Nefesh Ruach Neshama Atzman, they've become a separate chelik. And Kodesh Baruch Hu brought them down, and he wants them to make their way back to him. But he wants them to do it through a certain medium, and that's what the Alter Rebbe is revealing to us now. This is the medium, which means that the neshama ruach, never ruach neshama chas to pray them down. They are divine, but they themselves, with all the divinity, Hashem has given them His divinity only in the sense that they have powers and potential. That if those powers and potential will be united and will function through the rulings of the Tzedek v'Chokhmah, then the ultimate yichud will be made. But otherwise, there's not going to be an ultimate yichud. And it's on that that the Alter Rebbe said, why did he want that? So the Alter Rebbe said, of Hatayvis Kaikashanet. That we don't have any kashas. Why he wanted it? We know that that's what he wanted. That's the secret of the whole in this little passage. Says the Alter Rebbe, Pirush de'iraisa hi chokmosei v'retzoinoi shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'kvoidoi u'ba'atzmai. And the Eibusher in his own COVID and his own essence. Well, it's pointed out in some places in the cities that these two expressions also represent like two levels of gradation. Kvoid is like a revelation of Hashem, his kavod, how they call it, his luminescence that goes off from him, his glory, and Atzmai is the very essence of it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, close to being the very self of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'kvoid v'atzmai, and Eraisa, which is Chokhmah v'Ritzaynei, kul echad. He said they are all absolute one. How do we know that? That's also a pretty far-reaching thing to say, that the Chokhmah v'Ritzaynei, which are all these specific things, the mitzvahs have already come to us in the form of specific, let's say, 613 of them, and some of them are very detailed. And Chokhmah is also very, very limited in some ways in its uh, specificality, yeah, and how it deals with only one topic, and in that counts there are other topics, etc., etc. Nonetheless, says the Alter Rebbe, that is all one thing, absolutely, with the Eibusha. I already told you in the name of the Rambam. He said, Ki hu ha-yoideya, v'hu ha-mado, v'chulu, k'moishe kosafti li'il, as I wrote above, v'shem ha-Rambam, in the name of the Rambam. Now over there in Perek Beis, when we're talking about the Neshama, not about the Torah. We're talking over there about the Neshama in reference to Chochmah, Chochmah Eloah. We said that the Rambam says that it's all one with the Eibshe Hu v'Chochmosei Echad, and he said Ki Hu HaYodeya Hu Hamado. Over there he brought it the other way around. That's of interesting significance. Over the actual Lashon in the Rambam is different than both of the places the way the Alter Rebbe quotes it. The Rambam says Hu HaYodeya Hu HaYedua Hu HaDeo Atzmo. That's what the Rambam says. He says that the Eibush is the one who knows, and the Eibush is the known thing, and the Eibush is the media which links those two things together, which is called the Deo, the knowledge itself. All three of them are all the same Eibush. In other words, the Eibush's activity kaviyah of knowing, and that level, what he's called the Noah, which is already a slight Yerida in the actual perfection of Hashem. That's one with him, absolutely one. And that which is the Yadua, the known thing, is also one thing with him, meaning there's nothing separate from him. And the Alter Rebbe calls it Mado. He doesn't use